Hey everybody, welcome to the F-Bars Chronicles, and this is the last and final video about Lost Mine of Phandelver. This is where I walk you through the last session of the two groups, the War Hamsters and the Red Wedge Pact. This session is the one where they clear out parts of the Wave Echo Cave, and I had to change a few things because you'll see why. So first, the War Hamsters. They had started Wave Echo Cave by going through this hallway. The gnome wizard Ellie was keeping really good notes all throughout, and the tiefling cleric Krem drew the most fantastic map while they were exploring the Wave Echo Caves. That helped them a lot. So they went through this hallway over into this room. There were 3 ghouls in there. They fought those ghouls, and then they kept following this hallway over to here. The adventure says that there are 7 ghouls in here, and the 7 ghouls attack them and they start fighting with them. They were able to dispose them off pretty well. It wasn't a big deal. But then they came over here. This area, there is a flame skull and 8 or something zombies. I think Turquoise, the Dragonborn Paladin, did her divine sense and figured out, oh, there are a lot of undead over here. So they decided to go through this door. I think inside this door, according to the adventure, there were 3 or 5 bugbears or something. And I was really sick of them fighting bugbears in this campaign. Like hobgoblins, goblins, and bugbears, I got really sick of my players fighting them by the end of it. So I changed it because remember, King Grawl had escaped from Cragmaw Castle. So I put King Grawl and his owlbear in this room. So the party fought with him. They went through this door, went up the stairs here, and saw 3 bugbears over here digging through the rubble. And they decided to sneak past them into this room. This is where the black spider is with more bugbears. I changed that. The black spider was here with a few spiders. I just removed the bugbears completely because if you remember, I had buffed up the black spider. He could do more cool things, so I decided to reduce the number of minions he had. This fight was tough because I was able to use the spiders very effectively. They kept casting webs and restraining them, and everybody attacked them with advantage. The huge letdown was that Black Spider couldn't really do much because I couldn't roll well with him. He kept rolling really bad, so he would miss his Ray of Frosts and Scorching Rays. His magic missiles were almost always topped by casting Shield. The wizard can cast Shield, and then we had the cleric with the Staff of Defense with 5 free shields. So even though I was excited to play Black Spider, he could not really do much. But that's not the point. Since I was excited to run, the sessions were still fun, so it served its purpose. After a long fight over here, they defeated the Black Spider, and there were still other monsters and enemies all over this part of the dungeon, all over the eastern part of the dungeon. After they fought what was essentially the big bad evil guy, it felt like, okay, now we're just going through the motions of clearing out this dungeon like we're still 1974. It's not. We don't play the game like that anymore. It's a lot more narrative focused. So I kind of decided on the spot that since they have Gundren and Ellie is a gnome, and initially, a century ago, this whole mining operation belonged to the dwarves and gnomes, the undead here who are protecting this place would yield to them. The rest of the monsters in this cave, I basically say that, okay, you release them from their guard. Like, they don't have to stand on guard anymore. They go about doing their business. The undead are laid to rest in peace. So that was that. So this is the lesson here, is that don't be afraid. Don't feel bound by the adventure. Like, if it doesn't make sense anymore, once the war hamsters killed the black spider, the drama was gone. There was nothing left to do. You could go through the motions of fighting all of these, but that's not really exciting for anyone. There's nothing to look forward to anymore for the players. So it was curtain call. That was it. They cleared Wave Echo Caves, and I asked them, so where would you see yourselves in a year? They had fun describing where they saw their characters going. One of them, the gnome wizard, started a bakery because she loves to bake. Her capital was her earnings from the mine because they got a share in the mine from the Rockseeker brothers. The tiefling cleric decided to become kind of a recluse in the forest. She still makes a living from the earnings of the mine. The rogue sort of continued being a rogue. I don't think he had a very clear idea of what his character would do next. I don't think he ever thought about it, but that's okay. He's still living his life. Turquoise, the Dragonborn, had found a blink hamster, which is just basically a blink dog, but a hamster. So with the hamster, they started going around doing shows with some of her magic and the blinking war hamsters. They started putting up a show. Now they're a touring carnival all over the Sword Coast. That's it. That's how that adventure ended for them. The Red Wedge Pact had a longer session. Instead, unlike the war hamsters, they had started to go through this hallway. Remember, this is where the adventure says there should be an ochre jelly, but I had put the ochre jelly outside the dungeon as a random encounter during the night. My reasoning was that the Black Spider and his minions are here clearing out the dungeon, so they have driven the ochre jelly out, and that's how the random encounter happened. So they kind of went through all of this labyrinth unopposed mostly. They came all the way over to here, and they did find the skeleton underwater and the wand of magic missiles. They decided to give it to Gundren, who was with them, and let me tell you, he used it very well. It was very useful. So they went over to this door, and inside were a couple of bugbears that they fought. I had reduced the number of bugbears because, as I said, I was sick of running them, and I had buffed up the Black Spider. Next, they went over here, and they tried to sneak attack the bugbears and the doppelgangers. Remember, they had never killed the doppelgangers. They had escaped from Thunder Tree. And these players hate the doppelgangers. So the big fight ensues, and a couple of the bugbears flee and run away towards this door where the Black Spider is. So those two encounters kind of became all together, and with them, the bugbear was a lot more effective. But boy, oh boy, once the Goliath fighter, Donvo, gets in range with the spellcasters, he kills them. I think he landed another natural 20 on Black Spider and killed him. Same as the other group, once they killed Black Spider, the tension was all resolved, so I saw no reason for them to go through the rest of the dungeon. I just say that having Gundren there, the undead and the other protectors of the mines don't stop you from doing anything, so they clear out those dungeons. That's it, folks. A lot of combat, so not much of a story to tell you. I'm sorry if this was not as entertaining, as climactic of a battle that you thought it would be. There's a lesson to be learned there. Be open to the possibility that your big bad evil guy, that fight might not be as interesting as it is. And honestly, there's not much you can do except that was great. Move on to the next thing. And we have moved on to the next thing. We are running Waterdeep Dragon Heist. I can't wait to tell you all about it. Thank you. That's the end.